Okay, good morning. This is the last week before Christmas. I know it's going to be kind of hard for you guys to focus, but please do so because you have a CDA next class. So today you're going to be doing a review. On your review study guide, I have given you hints on how to solve each one of your problems. So please, please, please take it seriously because the questions on your study guide, as always, they look exactly like your test, okay? Most of those problems are dealing with what I have down here, okay? So we're going to do the warm-up together. After the warm-up, Ms. Hall is going to give you your study guide. You will be given about 45 minutes to work on your study guide using the hints that are on there and your assigned partner. And then in the last 10 minutes of class, she's going to go over the answers, okay? So you want to try to get as much done by yourself before she goes over the answers because that will count as a classwork grade. So she'll be coming around to check off whether you have completed your classwork or whether you haven't. So let's get a 100. All right, so now let's go over what we've done. The only thing I didn't put up here was Pythagorean's Theorem, and I figured you guys didn't need any help with that. Just remember with Pythagorean's Theorem that you have to know two sides of the triangle. If you only know one side, then that means you have to use one of your trig functions in order to find the missing side. So that's the only thing that's not up here, but just FYI when you're doing your study guide. Alright, so 1, 2, 3, and 4 asks us to use the figure that's over here to the right. So notice we have triangle A, B, C. C is the right angle. So remember you draw the little man depending on which angle you're looking at it from. So I'm going to go ahead and write SOHCAHTOA over here. So for all of my examples, I already have this up on the board. And this should be one of the first things you do also once you get your study guide paper and when you're taking your CDA. Alright, so for number 1, we're looking at it from the perspective of angle A. So that's where I put my little guy. Alright, the first thing I want to label is the hypotenuse, which is the side that is across from the right angle. This side is across from it, so this is going to be the hypotenuse. Alright, then we're going to do opposite, which is the side directly across from the little man. So this is my opposite side, and this has to be the adjacent. So to do sine, I need to use the opposite side over the hypotenuse. So the opposite side, it has a length of 4, so that's going to go, 14. So that's going to go on the top. And it has to go over the hypotenuse, so my hypotenuse here is 22. Now since I have another problem on here that's looking at it from the angle of A, I'm going to go ahead and do that one before I redraw my figure. Okay, so we're still looking at it from A's perspective. This time they want you to write the tangent. So this is number 4. It said find the tangent of A. So tangent means I'm doing opposite over adjacent. Well, I know opposite is 14. And adjacent is going to be 18. Now, for each one of these fractions that I've just written, we need to simplify them because they're both even numbers. I know that these two numbers can simplify. And if you're not sure how to simplify, you can just type in your calculator 14 divided by 22. Hit enter. It gives you a decimal. We do not want the decimal answer. So we hit math and hit enter 2 times. It will simplify your fraction for you, so you don't have to worry about simplifying it wrong. So the sine of A is 7 over 11. Now I'm going to do the same thing to simplify the tangent of A. So 14 divided by 18 in my calculator, hit math and hit enter 2 times, and that simplifies to 7 over 9. Okay, now I know some of you could do that in your head, and if you can, you go ahead, but you have to show your setup. Okay, alright, now I'm going to clear where I drew my little man at and the little O and A. Okay, because the only thing that stays the same is the diagonal side, that is your hypotenuse. That's going to stay H. So now we're changing. We're looking at it from the perspective of B. So I'm going to draw my little man down here. And notice I changed my color to blue because we're looking at it from B's perspective. So that means this side would be my opposite side because it's the side that's directly across from him. And the adjacent side, the side that's right next to my little man, is 14. Now let's do our tangent of B. So the tangent of B, which is opposite over adjacent, is 18 because that is the side that's opposite over adjacent, which is 14. Alright, and in my calculator, I'll simplify that. 18 divided by 14. Hit math and hit enter 2 times. We get 9 over 7. So if you notice, the tangent of B and the tangent of A are the same thing, except for they are reciprocals of each other. Okay? Now the cosine of B, we should already know, is 7 over 11. Because that uses that complementary angles. Let me just rewrite that so it looks a little better. So A and B are complementary angles of this right triangle. So since this one is 90, that means when I add A and B, they should be 90 also. So they're going to be the same. And we can verify that by finding adjacent over hypotenuse. So the adjacent angle to B would be 14, which is what we see here. And the hypotenuse would be 22. So obviously when we simplify it, we're going to get 7 over 11. These two should be the same because the sine of A and the cosine of B are the 90-degree angles. Okay? Alright, so that goes over just looking at our first lesson where we just learned how to set up our ratios. So now we're going to use the same complementary angles. Remember, sine of X and cosine of Y. Because they said that triangle XZY is a right triangle, if you need to draw it, you could say X, Z, and Y, and Z is the right angle. Alright, so if the sine of X is 5 over 13, then what is the cosine of Y? Now, I know in the example where we were actually working the problems out, we actually went and put these numbers in. But because I know complementary angles, the sine of one angle is going to be equal to the cosine of the other complementary angle, I already know my answer. And I'm just going to erase my triangle so that I can write this in. So they have to equal the same thing. So if this is 5 over 13, then the cosine of Y is also 5 over 13. These will always be exactly the same. Just like they were up here when we found the sine of A. Okay, we did the sine of A and the cosine of B. They always equal the same thing. So if you know one of them, you automatically know the other one. And you just have to remember that. And notice that we're doing the sine of one angle and the cosine of a different angle. Okay, they will equal the same thing. You just have to see sine and cosine and make sure that the angle that's in here is not the same angle. Make sure it's a different one. Alright, so 6 and 7 are the only ones where we actually have to do some work here. And yes, Alec, you do have to show your work. Alright, so for 6, they asked me to find F. Well, F is right here. Alright, so since they gave me the angle here of 25 degrees, that's where I draw my little man. Remember, the little man is always standing where the angle is. So this is the only angle that they gave me besides the 90-degree angle, and we never use that. Okay, so we just need to figure out what sides did they give me. Okay, well, I know the diagonal side, which is the side that's across from the right angle, is always the hypotenuse. So they gave me H. Let me clean that up because it looks a little sloppy. Alright, so this side is my H. It's the hypotenuse. Now, what would F be looking at it from the little man's perspective? This would be the opposite side. So after we figure out what are the sides that they gave us, I need to figure out which one of my trig functions am I going to be using. Are we going to be using the sine, cosine, or tangent? And all you have to look at is what they gave you. They gave me opposite and hypotenuse. So which one has an O and an H in it? That is the sine function. So that's how we're going to find our answer. Okay, let me clear this up just a little bit so I can write my problem. That's O for opposite. All right, so the sine of 25 degrees equals opposite, which is F, over hypotenuse, which is 7, because that is the measurement that they gave me here. Okay, now we just need to solve for F. For remember, whenever your variable's on the top, all you have to do is multiply. So we multiply by 7 on both sides. So 7 times the sine of 25 degrees equals F, because 7 divided by 7 cancels. Now, Alec, I need to see this as your work. This is work right here. It shows me what you did to get your answer. And then we can plug in the calculator to get our answer. Now, once again, whenever you're using your trig functions, make sure that you check your mode. Make sure that you hit mode and make sure that you see degree highlighted. Okay? If degree is not highlighted, then you're going to be getting the wrong answers. Okay? And once you make sure that it's highlighted, if you hit second and mode, that will get you out of the little mode, mode calendar button. Okay, so I'm just going to type this in just like I see it. Remember, we can only type in the side that has all the numbers. So I hit the number 7, I hit my sine button, and I hit 25. All right, and we press enter. So they didn't tell me how to round. Since I have two digits in my degree, we'll keep it to 2 digits as my answer. Okay. Of course, your answers are going to be multiple choice, so you'll know how to round by looking at your answer choices or by reading the directions. They will more than likely tell you where to round to. So if you did that in your calculator, you should have got something that looks like this: 2.95837. Okay, we want to keep 2 places, so the 2 is the first place and the 9 would be the second place. I have to round this. Whenever you round, you look behind the last number that you want to keep. This number is a 5, so that means this has to go up 1, so we actually end up getting a whole number. So we could say 3 or just 3.0, and we'll say units, because they didn't tell me whether this is measured in feet, miles, inches, or centimeters. Okay, so F equals 3 units, and that would be the measurement of F right here. Okay, now we're going to do it again, but this time we're solving for S. So let me clear what I have down here. I won't clear the whole board just in case somebody is still copying. Alright, so I need some space over here, so I'm just going to clear that right there. I hope that doesn't mess anybody up. Alright, so over here you'll notice it said that we're solving for S. Well, when I look in my picture, S has the little degree mark, which means I'm solving for the angle. So whenever we type this in our calculator and we're solving for the angle, we have to use the inverse button. You only use inverse when you're solving for the angle. Okay, so we're going to be using one of these buttons, and that simply means I got to hit second before I hit one of these buttons. Alright, so I draw my little man where the angle is, and obviously the angle is S. Okay, and we do that so that we can label our hypotenuse, opposite, and adjacent. So this is the diagonal side, that is the hypotenuse. And if I draw my angle, the side across from the little man is always the opposite, or the O. So we're using the same function because we have opposite and hypotenuse, just like we had over here. So when I look at my SOHCAHTOA to figure out which one I'm using, we're going to use the sine function again because we don't have adjacent, and both tangent and cosine say that you need the adjacent. And they didn't give me that side, so I'm not trying to find that side. Alright, so we set this up. We're going to do sine of S, or you can say theta, or you can say X if you don't like using S here. Okay? Matter of fact, I'm going to change mine to theta because normally when we're solving for the angle, we refer to it as theta. Alright, equals opposite, which is 17, over hypotenuse, which is 32. Alright, so now we have to solve for our angle. Well, that just means that we're going to do the inverse. So I do sine, the inverse of sine, and we do 17 divided by 32. Okay? So this side, when I type it in my calculator, is going to give me my answer. So we'll know what S is. Remember, theta is just the angle. So we do inverse, so that means I hit second and then sine, so that you have the little -1. Alright, and then 17 divided by 32. Alright, so my answer, I get 32.08995 and so on. Well, when I look at my answer choices, all of these have 2 digits, so I'll keep 2 digits, which in my case, we will be rounding to the nearest degree, okay, so that we have a whole number. So I'm able to keep the 3 and the 2. I look behind it, it's a 0. Well, that doesn't make the 2 go up, so theta is equal to 32 degrees. Therefore, S is equal to 32 degrees because S is the angle that we were solving for. So there's my answer. Okay, so you're either solving for a missing angle, you're solving for a missing side, you're using Pythagorean's theorem, okay, or they may just be asking you for the complementary angles, making sure that you understand that their ratios would be the same, or they may just be asking you to set up your ratio. Okay, that's it. That's all you guys have done. I really think that this should be a really strong CDA. If you have any questions or concerns, please make sure that you go up to Ms. Hall and address those with her. She will be sitting at her desk today. She wants to minimize her pain with her back. So you guys be good, be working, and try to help her out with that, okay? You guys were awesome when I wasn't feeling good, so you guys can help her out too. Please make sure that you're working with your partners. And anybody who volunteered, you got 5 points extra credit that will go on your CDA. Alright? Thank you so much. You guys be good. And I will not talk to you next time because the next time you guys come in the classroom, you'll be taking your CDA. So I'd like to go ahead and say Merry Christmas. If anybody wanted to get me a gift, you can bring it after the holidays. I'll be more than happy to accept it and for your appreciation. And you guys have a Merry Christmas and Happy Holidays and good luck on your CDA. All right? Bye-bye.